everything may have just changed. Jen Sidwell is about to pull the most desperate, bloody stunt of his entire miserable life. If you think he is just going to sit in a cell and rot for the rest of his days, you are dead wrong. This could be the biggest mistake of someone's life, and it is going to cost a massive amount of blood on the streets of our city. Sidwell is currently facing a mountain of criminal charges that would put anyone away for multiple lifetimes. He knows exactly what is waiting for him. A cold, dark cell in a maximum security federal prison. No parole. No deals. No seeing the sun again. The walls are closing in, and the justice system is preparing to throw away the key. Why? Because the list of his horrific crimes is growing longer by the second. Let us start with the brutal murder of Henry Dalton. Sidwell did not just eliminate Henry in cold blood. He orchestrated a massive, twisted cover-up. He deliberately framed Sonny Corinthos and Laura Collins for the murder. He planted evidence, manipulated the narrative, and tried to send two of the most powerful people in Port Charles down for a crime they did not commit. He wanted to distract the police. He wanted to watch Sonny and Laura burn. But that wasn't the real problem. It gets worse. Much worse. What about the sudden and violent death of Judge Eva Heron? We all know she did not just vanish into thin air. Sidwell's the one who took her out. He murdered a sitting judge and dumped her lifeless body into the freezing river just to erase his dirty tracks. He thought the water would wash away his sins. He thought he was completely untouchable. And that changes everything. You cannot kill a judge and expect the federal authorities to just let it slide. The heat on Sidwell is nuclear. But wait, we have to look at the collateral damage. Sidwell has been running a relentless campaign of terror across this entire town. Look at what he did to Lucas Jones. Look at the threats against ADA, Justine Turner. Look at the psychological warfare he waged against Ava, Jerome, and Ethan Lovett. He played them all like pawns on a chessboard. Here is where things get messy. Let us not forget his massive, catastrophic involvement in the highly dangerous cold fusion project. Working alongside double agent Ross Cullum, Sidwell was ready to sell out global security to the highest bidder. The sheer scale of his treason and domestic terrorism is staggering. With all of these charges stacked against him, Sidwell knows a trial is a guaranteed death sentence. He knows the only path left is to run, but how do you run when you are locked inside the heavily fortified PCPD holding cells? You do not. You wait for the transport. Guys, this is where it gets interesting. Sidwell is a tactical genius. A twisted one, but a genius nonetheless. He knows that the absolute most vulnerable moment for any high-profile prisoner is during transport. The moment they take him out of the concrete bunker of the police station and put him into a moving vehicle to transfer him to a higher security prison or the courthouse, that is the golden window. That is the only time he is out in the open. And then everything spiraled. Enter Hudson, played by the brilliant Troy Lennon Appel. We all heard about this mysterious new business executive arriving in Port Charles on July 30. Everyone thought he was just another corporate shark looking to make a quick buck at deception or ELQ. We thought he was just another suit. But that's not even the biggest surprise. Hudson is not a legitimate businessman. He is a deeply embedded, highly trained, subordinate, loyal only to Jen Sidwell. Sidwell planted him in Port Charles months ago. Hudson has been hiding in plain sight, shaking hands, making deals, and completely flying under the radar of the PCPD and the WSB. While Sidwell has been sitting in his cell, Hudson has been outside, quietly assembling a small army. What happened next may be even worse. Hudson has been stockpiling heavy military-grade weapons. He has been hiring untraceable mercenaries. He has been tracking the exact routes the PCPD uses for prisoner transfers. He knows the blind spots. He knows the radio frequencies. Hudson has been preparing the ultimate explosive jailbreak to pull his boss out of the fire. Picture this scene. The day of the transfer arrives. The weather is grim. The tension in the air is thick enough to cut with a knife. Sidwell is shackled, hands and feet, wearing an orange jumpsuit. He is loaded into the back of a heavily armored PCPD transport van. Heavily armed guards flank him. Police cruisers take the front and the rear of the convoy. They start rolling through the streets of Port Charles. Sidwell just smiles. He knows what is coming. The convoy turns onto a narrow, isolated stretch of road on the outskirts of town. It is quiet. Too quiet. Suddenly, the roar of massive engines shatters the silence. A fleet of unmarked, matte black SUVs swarms the police convoy from all sides. It is a perfectly coordinated ambush. Tires screech across the asphalt. Gunfire erupts instantly. Automatic weapons tear through the police cruisers. But wait, Hudson is not taking any chances. One of the mercenaries fires a heavy explosive round straight at the transport van. The blast is deafening. The explosion blows the front tires of the massive armored van completely off. The van loses all control. It violently swerves, flips onto its side, and slides across the pavement in a terrifying shower of sparks, thick black smoke, and shattered glass. The police cruisers crash into the barricades. Officers are pinned down behind their bullet-riddled doors, desperately calling for backup. Hudson's mercenaries immediately swarm the overturned transport van. Their mission is simple and ruthless. Kill anyone in a uniform, rip the steel doors off the back of that van, and drag Jen Sidwell to freedom before the entire Port Charles police force descends on the location. It is pure, unadulterated chaos. Fire is burning on the street. Sirens are wailing in the distance, but Hudson made one massive, fatal miscalculation. He didn't account for Jason Morgan. Jason Morgan is back in Port Charles. He is a changed man, fiercely protective of his family and this city. And Jason has eyes and ears everywhere. Somewhere in the criminal underworld, a whisper slipped out. A mercenary talked too loud. A weapons shipment was flagged. Jason got the intel about the massive hit being planned on the police convoy. Jason does not wait for the PCPD to organize a SWAT team. He does not sit around discussing jurisdiction. He grabs his gear, loads his weapons, and flies toward the transport route. And that changes everything. Jason arrives on the scene just as Hudson's men are attaching chains to the back doors of the overturned transport van. The cops are completely outgunned and running out of ammo. The mercenaries think they have won. They think Sidwell is seconds away from walking free. Then Jason strikes. This is going to be the most intense, heart-stopping shootout we have seen in years. Jason drops into the war zone like a shadow. He is cold, calculated, and lethal. He flanks the mercenaries. He takes out the heavy gunner, pinning down the cops. Bang. One down. Bang. Two down. Bullets are flying everywhere. The sound of assault rifles echoes through the streets. Glass is raining down from the surrounding buildings. Jason moves from cover to cover, methodically dismantling Hudson's strike team. He is a one-man army, and he is not taking any prisoners. Inside the burning, overturned van, Sidwell is panicking. The plan is falling apart. He hears the distinct, terrifying rhythm of Jason Morgan's gunfire. Sidwell manages to kick open a shattered emergency hatch. He crawls out of the wreckage, his orange jumpsuit covered in blood and ash. Sidwell sees his men dropping. He sees the black SUVs getting shot to pieces. He realizes Hudson's grand escape plan has just turned into a slaughterhouse. Sidwell decides to make a run for it. He scrambles toward the tree line, desperate to vanish into the smoke and the chaos. But Jason Morgan never misses. Jason spots Sidwell making a break for the woods. He tracks him through the scope of his weapon. Sidwell turns around for one final desperate look. He sees Jason standing there, completely unfazed by the fire and the destruction. Bang. Jason takes the shot. It is a direct hit. Sidwell drops instantly to the cold, hard asphalt. The man who terrorized Port Charles. The man who killed Henry Dalton. The man who dumped Judge Eva Heron in the river. The man who nearly destroyed the world with cold fusion is finally stopped. His reign of terror bleeds out right there on the pavement. The sirens get louder. The PCPD cavalry finally arrives. The remaining mercenaries surrender or flee into the shadows. The dust begins to settle over the absolute war zone. But that's not even the biggest surprise. You would think Jason Morgan is about to be arrested, right? You would think ADA Justine Turner is going to throw the book at him for gunning down an unarmed, shackled prisoner. Wrong. Jason is not going to face a single criminal charge. When the smoke clears, the PCPD realizes exactly what happened. Jason did not commit a murder. He stopped a heavily armed domestic terrorist organization from breaking out a mass murder. He saved the lives of every single police officer pinned down in that convoy. He prevented a mass casualty event that would have devastated Port Charles. Jason's actions are completely justified under the law. He intervened to stop a fleeing felon who posed an imminent mortal threat to the public. Instead of handcuffs, Jason might actually get a medal. The police are going to thank him. He ended the nightmare that the PCPD could not stop on their own. Sidwell is dead. The threat is over. Jason Morgan is a hero. But wait, it gets worse. Look closely at the wreckage. Look at the bodies of the mercenaries scattered across the street. Look at the burning black SUVs. Someone is missing. Where is Hudson? Hudson was the mastermind behind the logistics of this attack. He funded it. He planned it. But he was smart enough not to be on the front lines when the bullets started flying. Hudson is still out there. Guys, this is where it gets terrifying. If Jen Sidwell is dead, who is Hudson taking orders from now? Is he going to pack up and leave Port Charles? Or is he about to take over Sidwell's entire criminal empire? Hudson has all the connections, all the money, and all the ruthlessness of his former boss, but none of the heat. A new villain has just been born from the ashes of this explosive jailbreak. A secret is about to explode. A new, far more calculating threat is walking the streets of Port Charles in a tailored suit, and nobody even knows his name yet. You absolutely cannot miss the next episode.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.